So yeah, en route to our first session of the day. Looking forward to meeting all of the people. Some of the individuals here I haven't seen for almost a decade. So it'd be nice to kind of connect and see some of the differences and things that's happening in Dublin. Invited to Dublin in 2011 to speak at a conference. And I was really nervous because I was a very much young youth worker at that particular time. On that evening, I asked the organisers, I can't remember the individuals' names, and I said I was really, really passionate about wanting to connect with a local organisation. She says, I know these guys and they'll be really, really good. Mark didn't know who they were. And I remember one of the first individuals that I met was this kid individual. Now I have to laugh because I have not seen this man for all these years. And it's funny because I've got glasses. Now, we both had a little bit of weight.
Small.
And it was an amazing experience, and I just feel like it's important that, you see, when we talk about, for the younger ones and the trainees in the room, when we talk about legacy, and we talk about passing on the baton, and one of the things that I always talk about is being a student. We have to always be students. Youth workers smile, youth workers engage, and all I'm just saying is that's the energy that I want over the next couple of days. We're youth workers, we're working with children and young people. And I always say to trainees and youth workers that if you're coming into a room and you're sitting there and you're quiet, I respect you might be shy, but youth workers engage, we're vibrant, we are the glue. And anyone that works in schools and works in colleges, you know that when you're working with those troubled young people, all it takes sometimes is that look. And the reason why they sometimes behave is because of human beings like that. And I just wanted to pay homage to you guys to say thanks for that. When I first came, because you guys, even though you probably didn't see me personally, it was you guys that opened the door for me. So I wanted to just give you that and just say from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
It's been really hard to find training specifically around youth violence. We've had a little bit of training around child trafficking, but nothing really that goes into the practicalities of youth work and working with young people who are involved with violence. And we had looked at all over Ireland for this training, we couldn't find it. So I had been talking to a colleague who had worked with Craig before and had a really positive experience.
Of course, there are going to be many elements that we can't change. But my thing is about what's the quality of your practice. This is what the next 2 days are about. What is the quality of your practice? But that's all I'm here to challenge and get you to think about. I don't expect nothing to majorly change over the next couple of days. But if I can change your position in the way in which you look at things, then it stops you from having what is called a saviour complex.
What brings me here today is to get a better understanding of where young people are at and how we can learn to communicate with them a bit better and give us a better understanding of what's going on for them and why they're behaving the way they're behaving.
I find it very interesting. It's good to revisit the basics like this morning, going back to your own triggers and understanding around your own triggers, especially with outreach work. I think the session then that we had later in the morning is very interesting, and the way it was broke down into who we actually work with, because I would agree with Craig that everybody goes for the funding pots because money is so scarce and it's so hard to do their job with the money that is given to the sector.
Some of these young people had friends or family members that were involved in forms of conflict. And you know how it goes. I could be walking with you, I don't know who you got a problem with, but we might just walk to the shop together and I'm identified as an individual with you. Now you pop into the shop and I'm just waiting for you to buy whatever it is you're buying in the shop, and that someone says, and all of a sudden I've got an issue with somebody that I don't even know. I'm like, no, I'm here for a few days and a trip. That's the reality of what happens with our children and young people. So yes, there may be some similarities, but it's not the same. But what we do as professionals is not only do we mirror, but always project. Oh, you've got a traumatic experience, so we've got a similar scenario. You know what, yeah, I grew up on the same, or in the same environment as you, so we can get it.
I don't know, we've kind of established that it's 2013 thereabouts the last time that we were here, and to see the impact of the work, it's gone from, we've always been told that we need to educate the younger generations, and we kind of got stuck in on the gang things, thinking that if we teach them, they can filter the information out to the younger generation. But it's more apparent now that the younger generation are starting to become the bigger influencers, for want of a better expression.
What's going on in the streets of the city of Dublin? Are these things being picked up? Because tomorrow when you start to listen to some of the music, a lot of these things are now starting to filter into different cities. So remember, I'm not from London, but now Friday afternoon I got called, I got an email from one of the heads of the alternative provisions and pupil referral units, because we had a session about this on Monday, and by Friday, they're saying Craig is now here. They shut a number of primary and secondary schools down. The police upped their presence at certain schools and certain campuses. WH Smith stopped selling compasses to young people under a certain age, and metal combs that were coming from schools. But obviously these ideas are not sustainable. When I first came to Dublin, there was guys walking on the street with shotguns. It was these guys that were out on the street. So in my understanding, from what I remember, those guys weren't comfortable, these guys weren't fazed with that type of behavior. Some of you in the room might be like, what do you mean, people walking around with shotguns? I don't know what the situation was. I don't know what the incident was, but I just remember walking with these guys. They had a walkie-talkie, and they seemed very comfortable in their environment. One of my biggest concerns of the day is the children and young people that are just navigating their way in those areas or postcodes, or happen to be wearing a tie because they represent a certain school, that falls into one of these colour zones, and they potentially become victims of something that they probably don't know or don't understand. And I think in terms of, when I go back to my previous point about the issues are becoming complex and nuanced, it's understanding those things, that the children and young people that are being targeted now are not necessarily involved.
I think that the chart that he done, the typology chart is good, and also the how he broke that down. I think we may do that as an exercise in our own team, but I also, the point I was going to make is that COVID has had a huge impact on that target group, that age group, that generation, that 2-3 year period. And I think that there is a disconnect between services, even our own, and that street gang type of group. So I suppose to use the chart that he used to actually look, that he wrote out, to actually look at how do we get back to what we had with that profile of young person.
In your areas, in environments where you realise, you know what, the gap is, no one's working with them, either you or an organisation needs to be developed, or a programme needs to be developed with workers that understand here. So I know in our organisation, for those that work in this environment, most of the individuals are ones with lived experience. The only difference is in my organisation, not only do you need lived experience, you need to have knowledge. You need to be trained in a certain type of way to respond at this issue. Day one's wrapped up. It was a good day. You know, it was crazy, if I'm being honest, Rob. I ain't seen some of these individuals for over 13 years. I came to Dublin 13 years ago, and yeah, it's just, I'm not gonna lie, so it's a bit of a weird one. I made some predictions when I first came, and it's partly sad that some of those things that I predicted are now happening. how has Birmingham, one, become the gun crime capital? Second question is, how are children getting hold of firearms? So when we talked about this yesterday, it makes perfect sense for us to understand some of the things that's going on. Because as I said, the tide is changing now. There are children and young people. Remember yesterday when I was saying these kids are getting caught up, that just living environments. We have to explain what's happening in our local communities, and that's why I really enjoyed the fact that you all designed and came up with ideas around what's going on your landscape so you can develop things to be able to respond.
Crime has changed an awful lot since I was a young lad growing up in Ballymun, which was a long time ago. I think young people are so desensitised from reality and how they're so impressionable, impacted by what they're seeing on TV and social media. When I was growing up, there was a level of respect. Nowadays, these young lads and girls, just there's no level of respect. How they say, how they speak, how they behave.
Organised criminals don't want to work with them because it's bad for business. This stuff is bad for business. This stuff is bad for business. In the local community, amongst the groups that are involved in the conflict, in their world, it makes perfect sense. It gives us celebrity, it gives us credibility, it gives us status, it gives us respect. People will be feared of us, but it's bad for business. These two young lads sheepishly waiting for everybody to kind of leave the room, and then he was like, "Yo, sir." He was like, "Yo, sir." He goes, "The session was cool, but we still need to carry our lives." And that's all I needed to hear from these two young men. And what they were translating to me was, your session was good, but you hadn't told us how we keep safe because I still need to carry my weapon.
Yeah, I think the last 2 days they've been a wake-up call in a way, I suppose, about where we're at, but also what's to come. It's also been really positive to know, I suppose, that there's still a lot of room for us to put in interventions that are going to make a difference. We've had some guidance around maybe next steps that we can do as a community to address youth violence.
If I wanted to buy 1 kilo of cocaine, how much would I pay? 1,300 to 2.
For 8 grand.
8 grand. 2 grand 200?
Yeah.
Which one?
2 grand.
2 grand.
You said 15, 20.
15 to 20.
2,500.
2,500, one more?
Yeah.
£10,000. So if I wanted to buy a kilo of cocaine, I would be spending anything between £42,000 and £50,000. So can you name for me 2 popular grime artists other than Stormzy and Dave? You know what? I'll accept Professor Green.
Dizzy Rascal.
I'll accept Dizzy Rascal. I'll accept Kano. Skepto. Yeah, we're doing well. Dublin. 6ix9ine. No idea. Widely unaccepted. Now what's interesting about that? Grime is like an old genre of music and all of you knew the answers. But when I'm asking about drill music, which is what some of the young people are listening to now, we're baffled. Bear that one in mind in terms of where we are in terms of staying up to the time with children and young people.
Well, 11 years ago, Craig was asked to come over and give some training and a seminar in Dublin, and there was a lot of youth services that were involved in it, and Craig talked about some of the issues that were happening in his community and how he was responding to them. And we got talking to him, and obviously Craig was fascinated by the type of work that we do, so he asked could he come out on a session with us into the community of Ballymun, onto the street, and meet some of our young people.
I've done a search on all of the record labels that all of these young kids are signed to, and lo and behold, all of the CEOs of these companies that tell these kids to make drill music interestingly don't look like the communities that are making the music, then it just reminds me of this stuff again, where clearly there's money that's to be made. 8.1 million views equates to some level of money.
Craig said that there was a lot of issues similar to Birmingham, and that he gave a prediction that maybe in 10 years' time we would be quite similar in the areas of violence from young people in our community and gang culture. And lo and behold, 11 years later, Craig is back talking to us, and we have all those issues that he earmarked 11 years ago.
Crank that noise, yeah man can't mend it. Stab me in the face with a shank and bend it. All of my gang got bad intention. Our man boys are fast, are paid in full. Catch that bastard. All of my packs are wrapped in plastic. 8-6 gang here, gun clap. Slap his bitch like a dirty scumbag. Hey.
So do you remember the quiz when I asked you all? And you were like, no, these words are not used. Don't know what they are these Birmingham words? Very much Dublin words. So, what were these young people talking about?
Killing.
Stabbing. Shooting. Drug dealing.
Status.
Gangs.
Women. Sex. So what do we learn from videos like this? Or what can we learn from videos like this? That it's happening here. One, of course, it's clearly here, and this video was quite dated, so it's not a recent video.
It's accessible to everybody.
It's accessible to everybody. What else?
I'll let other people interact.
Man, you have to agree that editing's great. You know, the music production, even though we don't agree with the lyrics, the production of it's great. This is not, you know, production that's just made with a little crap camera. There's money that's gone into this type of stuff. And the level of views that these videos get as well suggests that people like the video.
In our community, I think everyone is feeling quite reignited. I've heard, you know, of other people talking that they've kind of gotten in touch again with their passion again. So that was not something I expected out of the 2 days, but that, you know, seems to, it has really connected with people.
And what I started to understand was there is a direct correlation between fashion, perception, and violence. Because what we know is that the young man was wearing a Nike Tech tracksuit. I like to believe people know what a Nike Tech tracksuit is. He had a COVID mask on, and he was wearing a hood on his head. So aesthetically, my hypothesis is, when those young people seen him, they couldn't see his face, they seen the tracksuit and made the assumption, you must be somebody that we've got a problem with. Everybody is not built for this, and you need to recognize and understand that the open enemy are the individuals out there that don't want you to do this work. And that's why I say, and I end with the same thing, continue to be bearers of light for the children and young people and families that you serve. Continue to be bearers of light, because it's darkness out there and it's about to get worse. But the light comes through every single one of you, in your talents, in your love, in your opening of your hearts and opening up your spaces to try and at least save one. And if we can save one, we might can save two. And if we can save two, we might can save three. And if we can save three, we might can save 10. And you can go sleep at night and know that you tried your best.